And welcome everybody to today's webinar on plant and equipment. In this section here, actually there's quite a lot of things that have actually happened into this section in the last couple of months, and there is a lot of great new features coming into the system. By the end of this year, this will actually become probably the #1 register inside the system. So I'll just select plant and equipment. So in the plant and equipment register, you can actually enter all your plant and equipment. If you do have a lot of equipment that you want to actually upload into the system, you can actually ask us for an Excel spreadsheet and send an Excel spreadsheet, and we'll actually upload that sheet for you. That's if you've got a lot of data, make it easy for you. If it's obviously just one or two or whatever it may be, a couple, you would actually select the Add Plant Equipment section. In this section, you can actually enter the machine name. You can relate it to a site. Now, most of the time you would actually relate this item to the general site, but depending on what it is, you might just relate it to a warehouse if you've got a warehouse, but you can relate it to either individual site or overall every site by relating to the general site. You can relate it to an activity. You'll see later this year that you'll be able to relate and hold down and select multiple activities. So you'll be able to relate it to multiple activities, and I'll show you why when we actually go to the view section. You can enter all the details here of the system. Instead of actually entering in the qualification required here, because this is an old field, this has been an upgrade inside the system, which is actually quite a good upgrade, where you can actually select the certain qualifications needed to undertake the use of that machine. So also underneath that here, you can actually select if the general training requirements for that machine as well. So that replaces this field as well. You've got your plant cost and purchase date, so you can actually use it as an asset kind of thing that you can print out. You've got your registration. You can have an alert date and expiry date, insurances with alert date and expiry date, and upload those documents here. And you would actually set the alerts in the alert section as well, in the plant equipment section, in the alert stroke plant equipment. This is where the big change is going to be happening, in the maintenance section. So at the moment, if you're using the automatically scheduler, you'll see that there's going to be a massive upgrade relating to this section here. So if you do actually put your next maintenance date, so this is the next maintenance date due, and so if we actually select a date that's next maintenance and update future date, whatever it may be, so I can actually, ScoMo is going to be responsible for this, and yes, I want to repeat scheduler, and the repeat scheduler is that I want to do it twice a week, or whatever it may be, being the next future date. That actually just puts it in for the next future date. So you're looking at that doesn't automatically change over when you actually, this date is reached. It won't automatically put this date into that date at the moment. So it will be, this automatically scheduler will change a lot, where you'll be able to build your own schedule, but you'll be able to build it not only from date, but you'll also build it on time, and you'll also can build it on kilometers. So the beauty about that is that kilometers and the time feature is going to be a massive change inside the system, and I'll show you how that's going to work soon. So I can come down the bottom here. You can relate it to all the people responsible, whatever it may be. It's up to you. Instead of actually trying to make this public and going and find the public section, you'll see next week there'll be, just like the checklist builder, it'll actually have two kind of sections here. Do you want this to be public? Do you want your employee list on the field? So you can actually make it public here instead of trying to find it at the moment in the user admin dashboard section. You'll see that they'll be in the system next week. But let's just go back here for a sec and go to the register. So every item has an ID number, and that's the ID number in our database. You have the name of the vehicle. You can actually filter this by up and down here. You can relate it to a site. Again, you can actually filter that. This is where you can actually enter the perform maintenance when the maintenance has been undertaken for that machine. So the date of the maintenance details, they're kind of mandatory. You could put additional notes here and so forth, and upload the invoice, add maintenance. This is going to change. So where it's automatically going to be, you'll see that when you actually fill in all this kind of stuff, it'll automatically update that scheduler if you've actually done that scheduler to go to the next scheduled item. So technically you could actually build in a schedule for a machine that might need, say, for an example, maintenance after 100 hours, 500 hours, 1,000 hours, and all those different things. You could do that if you wanted to. And the same thing with kilometers, and same thing, so for an example, with the date range. So it will automatically update that scheduler when you're inside there. So you've got maintenance date and review date. Remembering maintenance date is obviously when the maintenance is due. The review date is to review that you've still got this machine and everything's up to date, or your schedule's up to date. So this is just for continual improvement. You can actually upload the Safe Operating Practice, or SOP as they're known as, in here, or as many documents as you wish. So when you actually do that, if I select this view section here, you'll see that all the documents you upload are underneath here. Some of our transport companies, what they do is they upload as many documents as they want relating to that vehicle, and they're all here. So it's up to you. So this log down here will actually show every single time that the vehicle's been, the item has been updated. This will actually show what's in when you've actually selected the green plus sign and what's been done. And if you want to go view details, it'll actually open that up. And if you actually upload a document, it'll be sitting here. These checklists here, well, this plant and equipment section is now related to literally everything and most of the things inside the system, not everything, but most of them. So you can actually build a checklist in the checklist builder. Let's, for an example, a pre-start checklist or a vehicle inspection checklist, which you would be doing. You would be doing that. And when you actually do that, you would actually relate, when you're actually building this checklist just here, just make sure that you open this field here for the machine and open the site field. Open those two fields, and you'll see when I actually show you the next feature. What that means, if you've got a pre-start checklist, the person can then actually, if I go back here and I go view, they can actually select whatever it may be that they're doing and on at a certain site. It's up to them. And it'll pick up the items relating to that site. So let's go back to the plant equipment, and we'll select view against the forklift. And if I come down the bottom here, so that's where so if I've done a checklist, not only will it save it in the checklist builder, but it'll also save it in the plant equipment section. It'll actually save it in the policy section if you're related to a policy. It'll save it to every single thing that you're related to that checklist. So that's a really good feature for you to do that. Compliances, you can actually go to the compliance register. That's picking up the documents in the compliance register. If you're related to a machine, the compliance, it could be a code of practice relating to forklift or whatever it may be, that kind of activities you're doing. And again, those documents you'll be having here. It's just a great way for you to actually show compliance that you actually have looked at the specific code of practice, whatever it may be, for this vehicle or this machine, and you've got that on record. This is picking up your procedure register, and this plant use, this is a new kind of feature. So this picks up the item. If I actually remember when we selected that this machine could have these certain qualifications and these certain training requirements for those tick boxes, what the system does, it automatically picks up the qualification matrix and the training matrix. So say for an example, if I've got a forklift license, whatever it is, and training requirements were such and such, and I've related all those to this machine item, it'll actually, in the qualified employees, put the qualified employees just here. They will actually be highlighted by a link. They can actually select on that link. They can open up the link, and they can actually say that time they're taking the machine out and time they're taking the machine in, and that's what this is here holding. But some of the features coming inside the system here, yes, you can print out this QR code. You could stick it on that forklift. But the difference here is that I had one client go, so I can print out a QR code for a checklist and print out a QR code for an incident, print out a QR code for a hazard and a safe work method and maintenance, and I can stick it all on my forklift. Why can't I just do one QR code? I said, that's a great idea. So basically, if you print out that QR code and you make it public, so you can scroll down here. If you've built a checklist relating to that vehicle, all you got to do is select on that item and it'll take them straight to that item. They can also log an incident, take them straight to the incident form. They can log a hazard. It'll take them straight to the hazard form. They can log maintenance. It'll take them straight to a maintenance form. So you're looking at the plant and equipment section now. With that one QR code, a user can literally get a safe work method statement, checklist that you've related. The reason why you can do it here, you can either relate it individually to that individual item, it'll be there, or if you open the field in the checklist section, if you open that field of plant machine in the checklist section, that checklist will be seen in every single plant and equipment item, which is probably the best way to go. So there's going to be a big change in this section. So that's a pretty good feature. But the better feature is that when you scan this QR code at the end of the year, it will, instead of the person going, okay, yes, this is all the details of this equipment, yeah, I can see it's out of date, or coming down here and doing a checklist or whatever it may need to be done. Wouldn't it be great if you scanned that QR code and it automatically told you what has to be done? And that's what's going to be happening. So you're going to scan this QR code. It's actually going to automatically pop up and say maintenance is due in this date here, or maintenance is overdue. So it'll warn the person not to use the machine if the maintenance is overdue. 2, if they've actually built a checklist and you've assigned it to this machine, when they scan the QR code, it'll bring up another warning after that to say you need to do this checklist before you can start using this machine. The person can do the checklist and then they can finish. Then it'll actually bring up any other warnings that's needed for this item. For an example, with a forklift, hence why we're actually moving into the time, is that so you can actually, yes, you've got your date range, but also with the times, forklifts and, lots and lots of equipment is actually based on time. So when they scan that QR code, it'll actually tell you all that what to do, but also it'll say this machine is based on time. Please start timer. They start the timer and it'll automatically calculate the hours used on that machine. Then obviously they can actually stop it after they use the forklift, and it will calculate all that time inside the maintenance register. You could be able to set obviously alert dates and then expiry dates based on time. So you might be alert date is 90 hours, expiry date is maintenance date is 100 hours. Now also, so it obviously when people are doing certain kind of processes, whether it be driving a truck or driving cars or whatever it may be, or using a forklift, they can actually do hours for competencies to get their qualifications up. So they'll be able to select their name, and if they've actually selected the time, it'll automatically go into the employee's register under competencies in a tab that's going to be sitting in the employee's history. And you'll be able to print out that, and you'll be able to print that out and then supply it to whatever it may be that you're getting your qualifications from. So it's just going to make it so much easier. And just instead of at the moment, you're probably just writing that down in an Excel spreadsheet. So so whereas this is automatically going to do it by the person just scanning QR code and hitting start timer and selecting their name. So one of the other things that's actually going to be happening with this here is I'm just in negotiation with a couple of companies. Be third party would be GPS, where it'll actually track the kilometres. So at the moment, when this upgrade comes in, yes, you can either enter the kilometres in a pop-up box that comes in here, and then you're looking at, so it'll actually, when the pop-up box will come up, it'll say this is based on, instead of time, it might be based on kilometres. And when the pop-up box comes up, it'll say enter the kilometres on the vehicle. They can enter the vehicle, and then at the end, when they hit stop, it'll actually enter the kilometres of the odometer again, and it'll automatically calculate how many kilometres it's done and so forth. So that's how that's going to work. They enter it manually, but wouldn't it be great if we can actually track a GPS and put it automatically into the system? So that's what is happening as well. So we're going to do an API. There is going to be an extra cost for that feature. So you can do it without the extra cost by just typing it yourself, or you can actually go for the expense of actually getting the third-party GPS unit, which will plug in underneath the vehicle's steering wheel and so forth. So this register is going to become, arguably one of the best features inside the system. There's lots of other stuff that's actually going to be coming into the system here as well. there's going to be, you'll be able to enter, especially for some certain vehicles and transport companies and so forth, is that, that might be that they're carrying chemicals of some sort. You'll be able to enter the chemicals that truck is carrying and so forth, but also you'll be able to enter the load that you've actually done in that for certain people. So you'll be able to track all these different things relating to this vehicle. So we're just slowly going to be building this section up to be one of the best features inside the system, and because most companies of some sort do have a lot to deal with some plant and equipment items, and obviously because plant and equipment is a big asset to them, and quite a you're looking at this is going to really kind of be a great management tool. Now you've got two types of maintenance in the system. So obviously you've got maintenance relating to planned maintenance and so forth, but you've also got the maintenance register that you should be actually using, and you can actually do maintenance, and you can actually relate maintenance to an individual machine if you wanted to. Well, let me just select back there. So you should be going maintenance register, develop maintenance request code, add, and here I can relate it to a site, and I can relate a category, but I could relate general to everything if I wanted to. You could relate it to do it like this and to create a maintenance request form and actually do the things that would go wrong. If you've got, say, an example, 5 or 6 forklifts, you might put all the things that can go with a forklift or a truck or whatever it may be. And here you can actually just put the ID of the forklift here if you wanted to and do it in one, because it does print out an Excel spreadsheet where you can actually still identify maintenance, which forklifts that's costing you the most maintenance. Or you could, if you wanted to, relate it to the individual plant item itself. Now, if you did actually relate it to the individual plant item itself, that's where you'll see in the plant equipment section, if I go view next to forklift, and if I scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that that's where the maintenance request link form will be here. They can select it, it'll open up the request, and then you've got your maintenance that they can actually do. So that maintenance is obviously reactive maintenance that they're actually doing in the maintenance register, whereas this is planned maintenance in this one here as well. And another good idea, so when you're actually building that checklist and you are relating it to that plant item, is that when your checklist, if you're doing a pre-start checklist, for an example, or a vehicle inspection checklist, just make sure when you're doing it, when the answer is no, that's what brings up the problem. So there is either an action, a hazard, or maintenance that needs to be done for that plant item. Remember, this is also, if you're related to that certain vehicle, it's also going to save it in the vehicle's log. So so you've got multiple ways to actually maintain this vehicle in a safe working order and so forth, and do all those different things. You'll see that, say for example, that feature, you'll be able to, with the chemicals and so forth. So this chemical will also be in the plant equipment section, because a lot of transport companies are carrying different kind of chemicals. So here it'll be activities. As I mentioned, you'll be able to select multiple activities, but also it'll actually have chemicals there as well, and they'll be able to select multiple chemicals as well, and that will put the SDS that you've done in your chemical register into the system so they can have access to that. But thank you everybody for turning up. If you do have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to send me an email with those questions. I will answer every single individual question on its own merit instead of an overall one. And then that way there you can, or if you want a more detailed kind of process, more than happy for you to actually book in for a demonstration from our website. You can, all the time, if you book that demonstration, that is my diary, and then you can actually book in for a demo or a training session.